The Washington sky was painted in shades of orange as the sun began its slow descent behind the imposing Cascade Mountains. William McAllister cinched the straps of his pack, his gaze filled with pride as he watched his daughter Emma. At 11 years old, she already shared his deep passion for the wild. "All set, little explorer?" William asked, his voice warm with a smile. Emma nodded enthusiastically, checking her small red backpack one last time. "Yep, Dad. I've got my flashlight, my notebook, and the map we marked together." That day, September 17th, 1999, promised to be perfect for their weekend excursion. The forecast called for clear skies and mild temperatures, ideal conditions for exploring the Eagle Creek Trail, a route William knew by heart but one Emma was about to experience for the very first time. "Sara will be back Sunday afternoon," William said, pulling his wife into a hug. "I'll keep the satellite phone on and call when we make camp." Sara McAllister tried to mask her worry with a smile. "Just be careful, you two, all right? And Emma, you listen to your father." "I will, Mom," Emma replied, giving her a tight hug. "I'll bring you back the best rocks I can find." What none of them knew in that moment was that this farewell on the porch of their Seattle home would be the last time Sara would ever see her husband and daughter. "Mrs. McAllister! Mrs. McAllister!" The shouts of Ranger Mike Peterson jolted Sara from a restless sleep. 48 hours had passed since William's satellite phone went silent. 48 hours of escalating dread. "Did you find them?" Sara asked, her voice cracking from tears and exhaustion. The ranger's expression said it all. "We found their campsite. It was untouched. The tent was properly pitched, sleeping bags laid out. There was even food on the camp stove, but there's no sign of William or Emma." Sara collapsed onto the sofa, the air seeming to vanish from her lungs. "That makes no sense. William knows those mountains like the back of his hand. He would never, ever just leave the camp like that." "Mrs. McAllister, we've expanded the search perimeter. We have 5 additional teams coming in from neighboring counties. The sheriff has requested specialized canine units." Peterson paused, hesitating. "We found something else. William's digital camera was in the tent." Sara looked up, a flicker of hope in her eyes. The last photos show Emma collecting stones near a stream. The timestamp is 5:37 p.m. on Saturday. After that, Peterson shook his head. There are no more pictures. Olivia McAllister, William's younger sister, walked into the room carrying 2 mugs of coffee. Her face, etched with fatigue and worry, hardened as she listened to the ranger. "What aren't you telling us?" she asked, handing a mug to Sara. "I know my brother. He's meticulous, prepared. He doesn't just vanish without a trace." Peterson exchanged a glance with Detective Robert Simmons, who had been standing silently in a corner of the living room. "Mrs. McAllister, Ms. McAllister," Simmons began, stepping forward. "We're considering all possibilities. The area where the camp was found isn't particularly dangerous for experienced hikers. There's no evidence of a wild animal attack, no sign they slipped down a nearby embankment." "Then what?" Olivia pressed. "We are investigating the possibility that their disappearance was not accidental," Simmons answered cautiously. The silence that followed was heavy, oppressive. Sara felt the room begin to spin. "Are you suggesting that someone—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "We can't rule out any hypothesis at this point," Simmons said. "We found something disturbing. William and Emma's footprints stop abruptly about 200 yards from the camp, as if they vanished into thin air. And there are other, larger tracks in the area that don't match either of their boots." Olivia tensed. "Whose tracks?" "We don't know yet. The ground is rocky, and the impressions are partial. But they appear to be from an adult male wearing large-sized hiking boots." The weeks that followed blurred into months of relentless searching. The McAllister case captured the nation's attention. News reports flashed photographs of William, a respected 38-year-old geologist, and Emma, with her trademark smile and red pigtails. Volunteers combed through miles of dense forest, helicopters scoured the mountains, and posters with their faces appeared in every town near the Cascades. But as winter descended, hope began to fade. 3 months without a single concrete lead, Detective Simmons muttered, reviewing the files for the 100th time in his office. It's like the earth just swallowed them whole. That Christmas, Sara refused to decorate the house. The ballet recitals Emma would never attend, the presents she would never open, it was all too much to bear. Olivia, who had moved in temporarily to support her sister-in-law, found Sara one morning clutching William's coat, searching in vain for his scent. "We'll find them," Olivia would promise, though her own conviction wavered with each passing day. By the first anniversary of the disappearance, the investigation had been reclassified as a cold case. Theories abounded, from a planned kidnapping to a fatal encounter with an unknown wanderer in the mountains. Some even suggested William might have orchestrated the disappearance himself, a theory both Sara and Olivia vehemently rejected. "What do we really know after a year of this?" a frustrated Sheriff Campbell asked during a case review meeting. "We know it wasn't an accident," Simmons replied. "The evidence points to a third party, but with no bodies, no witnesses, and no apparent motive. What none of them could imagine was that 9 years later, a simple topographic survey drone would capture an image that would reignite the search, unleashing a chain of events that would expose the terrible truth behind the disappearance of William and Emma McAllister." Seattle, June 15, 2008. Detective Robert Simmons's office had changed little in 9 years. The same Venetian blinds filtered the gray light of a typical Seattle morning. The same worn wooden desk held mountains of case files, and the same corkboard on the wall still displayed the bonded photographs of William and Emma McAllister. Simmons, now with silver streaking his temples and deeper lines framing his eyes, stared at the open file before him. On every anniversary of the disappearance, he meticulously reviewed the evidence, searching for anything he might have missed, some detail that could make sense of the inexplicable. "Still obsessed with the McAllisters," commented Lisa Chen, his new partner, as she placed a cup of coffee on his desk. "Some cases just don't let you sleep," Simmons replied, his eyes still fixed on the photos of the abandoned campsite. "An 11-year-old girl, a devoted father, I can't just file it away and move on." "It's been 9 years, Rob," Chen said softly. "The statistical odds—" "I know," Simmons cut her off, "but we never found bodies. There was never any real closure." The phone on his desk rang, interrupting them. Simmons answered with his usual professional tone. "Detective Simmons?" "Detective, it's Kyle Richardson from the Department of Natural Resources. We've got something you might be interested in." Simmons sat up straighter in his chair. Richardson was the contact he'd set up years ago to be notified of any unusual findings in the Cascade region where the McAllisters had vanished. "We were conducting a routine forest survey with drones," Richardson explained, "to assess the impact of last season's fires. One of our techs spotted something strange in the images, a camouflage structure about 5 miles from the McAllisters' last known location." Simmons felt his heart begin to race. "What kind of structure?" "It's hard to describe over the phone. It looks like some kind of cabin, but it's so integrated into the environment, it would be practically invisible from the ground, or even from a chopper, unless you knew exactly where to look. We only caught it thanks to the drone's thermal imaging." "Send me the exact coordinates," Simmons requested, scribbling notes furiously. "Have you sent anyone to check it out?" "Not yet. The area is extremely remote, far off any marked trail. We're putting together an expedition, but I thought you should know first, given your interest in the case. After hanging up, Simmons sat motionless, his mind racing. 9 years of waiting for a break, and now, finally, something tangible. Good news? Chen asked, noticing his expression. I don't know yet, Simmons replied, but it might be the first real lead in the McAllister case in almost a decade. Olivia McAllister had learned to live with grief as a constant companion. Now 42, she had dedicated the last 9 years to keeping the search for her brother and niece alive. After the police scaled back the active search, she had created the William and Emma Foundation, dedicated to helping find people lost in the wilderness. That June evening, Olivia returned to her apartment after a meeting with sponsors. The answering machine was blinking insistently. She pressed the button as she kicked off her shoes. You have one new message received today at 8:42 p.m., the robotic voice announced, before giving way to a distorted whisper that sent a chill down Olivia's spine. Your brother and niece weren't lost. They were taken by someone who lives in the mountains. Look in the northern area of Eagle Creek, where the stones form a natural arrow. There is a world underground that no one knows. The message ended abruptly. Olivia stood frozen, her heart hammering against her ribs. In 9 years, she had received dozens of false tips, cruel hoaxes, and dead-end calls, but there was something about this voice, about the specificity of the information. With trembling hands, she dialed Simmons's number. Robert, it's Olivia. I need to see you now. I've received a message. I think it might be real. 2 hours later, an impromptu team had gathered in a conference room at the precinct. Simmons, Chen, Olivia, and 2 audio technicians were analyzing the recording. The voice is electronically distorted, one of the techs explained. Impossible to tell if it's male or female, but there's something interesting in the background. He raised the volume and filtered out the main voice. Faintly, they could hear what sounded like running water and a peculiar echo. They could be calling from a cave or some kind of underground structure, the tech suggested. Simmons connected his laptop, pulling up the images Richardson had sent. This was captured by a drone 3 days ago, he explained, pointing to a nearly imperceptible smudge among the trees. And this is what it looks like with a thermal filter. The processed image clearly revealed the rectangular outline of a structure, partially buried in the mountainside. It's approximately 5 miles from where we found the abandoned camp, Simmons continued, in an area that was searched multiple times, but could have been easily missed if it's as well camouflaged as it looks, Chen finished. Olivia studied the image intently. The message mentioned Eagle Creek and rocks forming a natural arrow. It lines up with this location, Simmons said, zooming in on the topographical map. The creek is right here, less than half a mile from the structure. I don't see any rock formation that looks like an arrow from this aerial view, but we need to go there, Olivia interrupted, her voice firm. Right now. We're organizing an operation, Simmons replied. The sheriff has authorized a tactical team. We move out at dawn. I'm going with you, Olivia stated in a tone that left no room for argument. Simmons started to protest, but Chen cut him off. It might be helpful to have someone who knew William well, if we find anything personal. All right, Simmons finally conceded. But you stay with the support team at a safe distance from the main operation. The dawn of June 17th found a group of 12 people moving silently through the dense forest of the Cascade Mountains. 6 county tactical officers, Simmons, Chen, 2 National Park Rangers, a forensic examiner, and Olivia. They had started their ascent from a secondary road, avoiding the usual trails so as not to alert any potential lookouts. The trek was arduous. The steep terrain and thick vegetation made every step a struggle. GPS puts us less than a half-mile from the target, reported the tactical team leader, a veteran named Martinez. Despite her exhaustion, Olivia kept a steady pace. Every footstep could be bringing her closer to discovering what had happened to William and Emma. 9 years of uncertainty could end today, for better or for worse. As they rounded a particularly steep rock formation, the group came to an abrupt halt. There before them, just as the mysterious caller had described, was a series of weathered stones forming a natural arrow, pointing directly toward a dense patch of vegetation. "Unbelievable," Chen murmured. The call was accurate. Martinez ordered his team to spread out in a defensive formation as they advanced cautiously, following the direction of the rock arrow. After another 200 yards, the sound of the creek became clear. "Hold!" Martinez commanded in a low voice, raising a fist. Through the thick foliage, barely visible to an untrained eye, was the outline of what looked like a weathered wooden door, so skillfully integrated into the hillside that it seemed a part of the natural landscape. "It's like someone built this specifically not to be found," Simmons commented, studying the structure. With extreme caution, the tactical team approached the entrance. There were no signs of recent activity, no visible footprints in the damp soil. Martinez carefully examined the door without touching it. "No visible locks or conventional handles," he reported. "Looks like it has some kind of hidden mechanism." As the team debated how to proceed, Olivia noticed something unusual on a nearby rock. A small carved mark, almost imperceptible beneath the moss. "Wait," she said, moving closer. "I know this symbol." She carefully wiped away the moss, revealing what looked like a stylized W. "It's William's mark," she explained, her voice trembling. "He used it to mark his geological finds. It's his signature." A tense silence fell over the group as the implication of the discovery settled in. William McAllister had been here. He'd left a sign. "We're going in," Simmons decided, his voice low with caution. What they would find beyond that camouflage door would forever alter the course of the investigation and reveal a horror no one had conceived of during 9 long years of searching. The tactical team meticulously examined the door. After several minutes, Martinez discovered a mechanism hidden beneath a seemingly ordinary stone. "Looks like a rudimentary lever system," he explained, carefully manipulating the device. A metallic click echoed and the door shifted slightly inward. Martinez gave a signal. 2 agents took up positions on either side of the entrance, weapons raised. "We're proceeding with hostile environment protocol," he announced. "Alpha team, on me. Beta, secure the perimeter." Simmons turned to Olivia. "You and Chen stay here until we clear it." Though every instinct screamed to protest, Olivia simply nodded. She had waited 9 years. She could wait a few more minutes. The entry team vanished into the dark opening. For those left behind, the minutes stretched into an eternity. Finally, Martinez's voice crackled over the radio. "Initial area is clear. No human presence detected, but you need to see this." Chen and Olivia followed the second team inside. The entrance opened into a narrow tunnel carved from the rock, reinforced with crude wooden beams. The beams of their flashlights revealed a packed earth floor, stamped with ancient footprints. "This place has been here for years," Chen remarked, running a hand along the walls. "This wasn't built overnight." After about 20 meters, the tunnel widened into a rectangular chamber. The walls were lined with rustic shelves holding canned goods, tools, and an assortment of supplies. In the center stood a wooden table flanked by 2 benches. In one corner, a crude wood-burning stove sat cold, its chimney presumably venting through some hidden flue. But it was the walls that seized everyone's attention. They were a disturbing mosaic of obsession, covered in drawings, notes, photographs, and maps. "Oh my God," Olivia whispered, stepping closer to one of the photographs. It was a picture of William and Emma, clearly taken with a telephoto lens while they were hiking on a trail. Beside it were more: William in his university office, Emma leaving her school, the McAllister house photographed from a distance. Someone was watching them, Simmons murmured, for God knows how long before they disappeared. Martinez emerged from a side passage. "There are more rooms," he said. "A lot more." The group followed him down a narrow corridor that opened into another chamber, smaller than the first. This one held 2 cots, a small bookshelf, and a padlocked trunk. Olivia stopped dead, her gaze fixed on one of the books. That's Emma's diary." With trembling hands, she picked up the pink notebook with silver stars on its cover. She opened it, and her breath caught. It was, without a doubt, her niece's childish handwriting. The last entry, "It's dated September 18th, 1999, she said, her voice thin as she carefully turned the pages. "The day after they disappeared." Simmons moved closer. "What does it say?" Olivia read aloud, her voice cracking. "Day 2, in the secret cabin. The man says we are going to stay here a long time. He says Daddy is special, and so am I. I don't understand why we can't go home. Daddy is mad, but the man has a gun. He says if we try to escape, he'll hurt us. I hid this diary in my pocket. I hope he doesn't find it." A heavy silence descended on the room. It was the confirmation of their deepest fears. William and Emma had been abducted, held captive in this subterranean maze. "Get forensics in here now," Simmons ordered. "I want every inch of this place torn apart." Martinez gestured to another doorway. "You haven't seen the worst of it." The third chamber was different. It looked like a makeshift laboratory. A long table was covered with medical instruments, syringes, scalpels, glass vials with handwritten labels. The pages of nearby notebooks were filled with detailed annotations, diagrams of the human body, and what looked like meticulous records of experiments. Stapled next to some entries were photographs. Olivia tore her gaze away, unable to process what she was seeing. "This man," Simmons said, his voice grim as he scanned another notebook. "Whoever he was, he had medical training. These are notes on human experimentation." "Sir, look at this," an agent called out from the back of the room. He'd found a trapdoor in the floor, hidden beneath a threadbare rug. Martinez and 2 of his men moved in. After a quick check, they heaved the trapdoor open. A metal ladder descended into blackness. "I'm going down," Martinez announced. Seconds stretched into minutes as he descended. Finally, his muffled voice floated up. "It's clear, but you need to get down here." One by one, they descended the ladder. The lower chamber was larger than the others. It was bisected by a floor-to-ceiling metal grate. A cell. Inside were 2 cots, a crude toilet, and a small table with 2 chairs bolted to the floor. The walls were covered in markings, hash marks counting the days, childish drawings, words scrawled in what looked like charcoal. "They were here," Olivia whispered, her hand reaching toward the cold iron bars. "They were prisoners, right here." Simmons examined the marks. "Based on these," he said, his voice low, "someone was marking time in here for at least 7 years." In the corner of the cell, Chen found something. A small teddy bear, worn and filthy but still recognizable. "Is that—" he started to ask. Olivia nodded, tears finally tracing paths down her cheeks. "It's Mr. Buttons. Emma. She never went anywhere without him." Martinez moved to a door at the far end of the chamber. "Another tunnel here. Looks like it goes on for a ways." "Where does it lead?" Simmons asked. "Compass points north. Could lead to the other side of the mountain." Simmons made the call. "We need backup and specialized gear. We have no idea how deep this place goes. Martinez, leave 2 men to secure this level. The rest of you back to the entrance. Coordinate with forensics and the incoming teams." As the team began to move, Olivia remained frozen before the cell, the horrifying reality crashing down on her. Her brother and her niece had been imprisoned here, at the mercy of a predator with twisted scientific obsessions. The questions swirled in her mind. Who was this man? Why had he taken them? And the most important question of all, where were William and Emma now? The answers might lie in the tunnels stretching deeper into the mountain. But one thing was certain. After 9 years, they finally had proof. William and Emma had survived for a long time after they vanished. "We're going to find them," Simmons said, placing a hand on Olivia's shoulder. "We finally have a real lead." "Alive or—" Olivia couldn't finish the sentence. "One way or another," Simmons replied gently, "we will find answers. I promise you that." As they climbed the ladder to regroup, none of them noticed the tiny camera hidden in the corner of the chamber, its small red light blinking silently in the darkness. Miles away, in an isolated cabin near the Canadian border, a man stared at a computer monitor, his expression unreadable. After so many years of careful precautions, they had finally found his sanctuary. He turned to a figure sitting in the corner of the room. "It seems we have visitors, Emma," he said, his voice calm. "I believe it's time to move again." Over the next 24 hours, the underground complex transformed into a bustling forensic command center. Technicians meticulously documented, inch by inch. Tactical agents swept through the tunnels branching off from the main chamber, while digital analysts examined the crude technology found on site. Olivia remained tethered to the place, refusing to leave despite Simon's suggestions. She had set herself up in a research team tent, poring over the recovered journals and notes, desperately searching for clues to William and Emma's current whereabouts. "We've got something," Chen announced, entering the tent where Simons and Olivia were studying a map of the discovered tunnels. The tech team managed to recover files from the computer in the lab. He opened his laptop, displaying several folders. Most of it is detailed medical records, blood analysis, vital sign readings, notes on responses to various treatments, as he calls them. "Treatments for what?" Simons asked. Chen hesitated, glancing briefly at Olivia before continuing. "According to these documents, our suspect is or was a scientist. He calls himself Dr. Elias Walker, though we're still verifying if that's his real identity. Apparently, he was obsessed with researching extreme genetic adaptations." "What does that mean exactly?" Olivia asked. "According to his own notes, he was looking for ways to modify human DNA to allow for survival in extreme environments. He chose William because his geological research had led him to survive in some of the most inhospitable regions on the planet. And Emma." Olivia's voice was barely a whisper. "His theory was that children would have greater genetic plasticity, a greater capacity to adapt." Chen closed his eyes for a moment as if gathering strength. "There are also videos." Simons tensed. "Videos?" "Of what he calls testing sessions. I haven't been able to watch them all, but—" Chen shook his head. "It's disturbing. He documented his experiments over several years." "I need to see them," Olivia declared, her voice firm. "Olivia, I don't think that's a good idea," Simons began. "They are my brother and my niece," she interrupted. "I've spent 9 years imagining the worst. Reality cannot be more painful than what my own mind has created." After a moment of hesitation, Chen nodded and played one of the video files. The recording showed the very cell they had discovered. William, visibly thinner than in the family photographs but clearly recognizable, sat on one of the beds. Beside him, Emma, who would have been about 13 at the time, was drawing in a notebook. A calm, clinical male voice spoke from off-camera. "Observation Day 842. Subjects continue to show extraordinary resistance to extreme cold." The adult maintains normal functionality at temperatures of 5 degrees Celsius without protective clothing. The juvenile subject shows even more remarkable adaptation, with the ability to remain in ice-cold water for prolonged periods without signs of hypothermia. William looked up at the camera, his expression a mixture of contained fury and resignation. "Today we will initiate Phase 3 of the protocol," the voice continued. "Subcutaneous administration of Compound 17, derived from the antifreeze proteins of Antarctic fish." Olivia covered her mouth with her hand, unable to stifle a sob. The video continued, showing Dr. Walker entering the cell, a tall, thin man in a lab coat and surgical gloves, his face hidden from the camera. Simon stopped the playback. "I think that's enough for now. The date on that video," Chen pointed out, "is from 2002, 3 years after the kidnapping." "Are there more recent videos?" Olivia asked, wiping away her tears. Chen nodded. "The last one is dated approximately 1 year ago. So they were alive until 2007, Simons concluded. "We need to find this Dr. Walker, immediately." Miles away, in an isolated cabin near the Canadian border, Elias Walker was efficiently packing his essential equipment. Decades of paranoia had taught him to always be prepared for a rapid evacuation. "Are we leaving again?" Emma asked, now a young woman of 20 watching from the doorway. Her voice lacked emotion, as if the idea of fleeing was just another routine. "Yes, they found the main laboratory. It was only a matter of time," Walker replied without looking up from his task. "What about Dad?" Emma asked, her gaze shifting to a closed door at the end of the hallway. Walker paused for a moment. "Your father is coming with us, of course. His treatments are too advanced to be abandoned." Emma nodded slowly. After 9 years under Walker's control, she had learned to hide her emotions, to respond mechanically, to survive. But deep in her mind, something was beginning to stir, fragments of memories of another life. A warm house, a loving mother, an aunt who told her stories before bed. "Pack your things, only the essentials as always," Walker ordered. "We leave at dusk." Back at the underground complex, the forensic team had made a disturbing discovery. "We found traces of blood in the lab," the lead technician reported to Simons. "Multiple samples. We're processing them for identification, but preliminary tests confirm some match the profiles of William and Emma McAllister." "How recent?" Simons asked. "Some samples are at least several years old, but others—" The technician consulted his notes. "Others are relatively recent, weeks, perhaps months." The implication was clear. William and Emma could have been in this place a short time ago. Meanwhile, Chen had been analyzing the recovered records. "I think I have something on this Dr. Walker," he announced, striding into the command tent. Elias Walker was a biotechnology researcher at the University of Washington until 1995, when he was fired and subsequently had his medical license revoked for unethical conduct. "What kind of conduct?" Olivia asked. "Unauthorized experimentation. Apparently he was obsessed with human adaptation to extreme environments. After losing his academic position, he dropped off the radar. Until now, he was presumed dead. We need his photograph distributed to all agencies, border control, airports," Simons ordered. "And I want teams searching for remote properties under his name or any possible aliases." An agent hurried in. "Detective, the team exploring the North Tunnel found something, a secondary exit about a kilometer from here, and there are fresh tracks." Night was falling over the mountains as Walker loaded the last of his equipment into an old pickup truck. Emma stood by the cabin door, seemingly docile but watching his every move with calculated attention. "Help me with your father," Walker instructed, heading inside. Emma followed him to the back room. William McAllister lay on a medical bed, connected to various monitors. After years of experiments, his health had deteriorated considerably. He was no longer the robust geologist from the family photos, but a gaunt man with completely white hair, despite being only 47. "Disconnect the monitors while I prepare the transport gurney," Walker ordered. As the doctor bent over the medical equipment, Emma made brief eye contact with her father. A silent understanding passed between them, a communication developed over years of shared captivity. William gave an imperceptible nod. It was now or never. While Walker was focused on the equipment, Emma slipped her hand under her father's pillow and retrieved an object they had been hiding for months, a surgical scalpel stolen from Walker's lab. "Doctor," William called out in a weak voice, "I think there's a problem with the IV line." Walker turned, irritated by the interruption. "What problem? It's blocked. Let me see." As Walker leaned over to examine the catheter, he didn't see Emma position herself behind him. He didn't see the metallic glint of the scalpel. He only felt a sharp, searing pain as the blade sliced precisely into his neck, severing the carotid artery with a precision he himself had unwittingly taught her over years of observing his medical procedures. Walker staggered back, his hands flying to his neck as blood pulsed between his fingers. His eyes, wide with shock, met Emma's. For the first time in 9 years, he saw something he had never managed to eradicate from her, despite all his treatments. An indomitable will. "The adapted survive, Doctor," Emma said, her voice cold. "That's what you always said, isn't it?" Walker tried to speak, but only a gurgling sound escaped as he collapsed to the floor. His eyes remained open, reflecting shock and disbelief as life drained from him. Emma stood motionless for several seconds, watching her captor die. Then, with mechanical movements, she began to disconnect her father from the medical equipment. "We have to go," she said, helping him sit up. "They'll be here soon." William, weak but conscious, nodded. "You were so brave, Emma. So strong." Emma didn't reply. There was no time for emotion now. There would be time to process everything later, if they survived. The tactical team moved swiftly through the north tunnel, following the fresh tracks. Simons, Chen, and Olivia were right behind them, having insisted on being present when they finally found their suspect. "GPS puts us near an area where there could be structures," Martinez reported. "An unregistered property about 800 meters from the tunnel exit." Olivia's heart was pounding. After 9 years, they were so close. What would they find? Would William and Emma be alive? And in what condition after years of captivity and experimentation? "Light ahead," one of the agents announced. "Looks like the exit." The tunnel ended in a trapdoor similar to the one in the main complex. With extreme caution, the team emerged into a small shed camouflaged among the trees. Through the partially open door, they could see a cabin about 100 meters away. A single light glowed in one of the windows. "We proceed with hostage rescue protocol," Martinez ordered. "Alpha team front approach, Beta team cover the rear exits." As the agents deployed silently around the property, Simons, Chen, and Olivia remained in the rear, holding their breath. "I have movement," an agent reported over the radio. "2 individuals exiting the rear door, 1 male, 1 young female." "Descriptions?" Simons asked urgently. "Male, middle-aged, extremely thin, gray hair, needs assistance walking. The young female is supporting him." Olivia choked back a cry. "It's them. It has to be them." "And Walker?" Chen asked. "No sign of a third individual." Martinez gave the order. "Teams in position. Rescue operation on 3, 2, 1. Police, don't move." Tactical floodlights suddenly illuminated the clearing, bathing the 2 figures in a blinding glare. Emma reacted instinctively, moving in front of her father in a protective stance. Her eyes narrowed against the bright light, her body tensed like a cornered animal. "Emma! William!" Olivia's voice broke the tense silence as she ran towards them, ignoring the agent's warnings. Emma didn't recognize her at first. 9 years had blurred the memories of her former life, but William, despite his weakness, did. "Olivia?" His voice was a raw, broken whisper of emotion and disbelief. As Olivia drew closer, the agents surrounded her protectively, still uncertain of the situation. Emma maintained her defensive posture, assessing each person as a potential threat. "He's dead," Emma said, her voice flat and emotionless. "Dr. Walker is inside. I killed him." Her words fell like stones into the night's silence. Simons and Chen exchanged a look as Martinez ordered a team to clear the cabin. "Emma," Olivia said softly, approaching with caution. "It's me, your Aunt Olivia. Do you remember me?" Emma's cold, calculating eyes studied Olivia's face. Slowly, like pieces of a scattered puzzle, memories began to click into place. "Aunt Liv?" Emma's voice cracked slightly, the first hint of emotion. "Is it really you?" "Yes, sweetheart, it's me. We've been looking for you for 9 years." The agent who had entered the cabin returned and approached Simons. "Confirmed. 1 adult male deceased inside, blade wound to the neck. We also found extensive medical equipment and what looks like a makeshift lab." Simons nodded and addressed the father and daughter. "William, Emma, I'm Detective Robert Simons. We're here to take you home." Emma looked at her father, who nodded weakly. Only then did she seem to relax slightly, though her gaze remained alert, constantly scanning her surroundings. "My father needs medical attention," she said, her voice now more focused. "He's been subjected to experimental treatments for years. His immune system is compromised." A medical team approached with a gurney. William, exhausted from the effort of the escape, allowed them to help him. As they settled him onto it, he reached a trembling hand toward his daughter. "Emma, we made it." She took his hand, and for the first time a single tear traced a path down her cheek. "Yes, Dad. We made it." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. William was airlifted to a specialized hospital in Seattle. Emma, after an initial medical evaluation, insisted on accompanying him. Olivia traveled with them, refusing to be separated from her newly found family. Back at the scene, Simons and Chen supervised the processing of both sites, the underground complex and the cabin. The body of Elias Walker was positively identified through dental records, confirming that the man who had tormented the McAllisters for 9 years was no longer a threat. At the hospital, William was admitted to the ICU as doctors tried to comprehend the alterations his body had undergone from Walker's experiments. Emma, physically healthy but with evident psychological trauma, was assigned a private room with security, both for her protection and for evaluation. "The doctors say they've never seen anything like it," Chen explained to Simons as they reviewed the preliminary reports. "According to initial analysis, both William and Emma show physiological adaptations that should be impossible. Extreme cold tolerance, altered metabolic efficiency, increased lung capacity." "Did Walker actually succeed in what he was trying to do?" Simons asked in disbelief. "Apparently, but at a terrible cost. William's body shows signs of extensive organ damage. The doctors aren't sure how much time he has left." The news hit Simons like a physical blow. After 9 years of searching, to find William alive, only to lose him, felt like a cosmic cruelty. And Emma? Physically, she's in better condition. Being younger when the experiments began, her body adapted more effectively, but psychologically. Chen shook his head. "The psychiatrist says she shows signs of extensive conditioning, behavior similar to prisoners of war or cult victims. Her emotional development seems to have been arrested in many ways." Have you contacted Sara McAllister? Simons asked. Chen nodded. She's on her way from Chicago. She moved there 5 years ago, after she'd lost hope of ever finding them. She'll be here in a few hours. Olivia remained by Emma's bedside. Her niece, sleeping fitfully under the influence of a mild sedative, was now a young woman of 20. Olivia's gaze searched for the ghost of the 11-year-old girl who had vanished, trying to reconcile the two. The features were recognizable, but a harshness was etched into her face, a testament to years of suffering that even sleep could not erase. A soft knock on the door announced a nurse. "Miss McAllister, your brother is awake. He's asking for you." Olivia hesitated, her eyes fixed on Emma. "I don't want to leave her alone when she wakes up." "I can stay with her," Simmons offered, stepping into the room. "You go to William. He's going to need all the strength he can get for what's coming." In the ICU, William was propped up in bed, a web of wires connecting him to a bank of monitors. Despite his weakened state, his eyes lit up when he saw his sister. "Liv," he whispered, "I still can't believe you're here." Olivia took his hand, feeling its chill despite the warmth of the room. "We never stopped looking for you, Will. Not for a day." "Emma, how is she?" "She's resting," Olivia said, her voice softening. "She's so strong, Will. She protected you. She got you out." William closed his eyes for a moment. "She's paid a terrible price for that strength. What Walker did to her. To both of us." "The doctors will do everything they can to help you," Olivia assured him. William looked at her with an intensity that seemed impossible for someone in his condition. "Liv, you need to understand something. Walker was a monster, but he was also a genius. What he achieved with us, he fundamentally changed our DNA. Emma, especially. She's different now. She can survive in conditions that would kill a normal person. She can think and react in ways that are beyond human, but the cost." He paused, fighting a wave of emotion. "The cost was her humanity. For years, Walker tried to eradicate her emotions, to condition her into what he called the next evolutionary step. Oh God, Will, you need to promise me something." William continued, his voice urgent. "Emma will need protection, not just from others who might want to study or use her, but from herself. She isn't sure who or what she is anymore." "I promise," Olivia answered firmly. "I'll look after her as if she were my own daughter." "There's more," William added, his voice fading. "Walker's notebooks, his records, they contain dangerous information. Information that could be used to repeat what he did to us, maybe on a larger scale. The police have confiscated everything, but not all of it." He struggled to sit up further. "Walker had a remote server, cloud backups. He was obsessed with preserving his work, the access keys. I memorized them, watching him for years." With a trembling hand, William took a pen and paper from the nightstand and scrawled a series of seemingly random characters. "This gives you access to everything. Use it to make sure no one can continue his work, and to understand what Emma might need in the future." Olivia folded the paper, her expression grave. "I will. I promise." Back in Emma's room, Simmons watched the young woman, who was now awake but silent, her gaze fixed on the window with an impenetrable expression. "How long were you looking for us?" she asked suddenly, without turning. 9 years, Simmons replied. "We never closed the case." Emma gave a slight nod. "He always knew you were looking. He reminded us constantly. He said if you found us, they would separate us, turn us into lab specimens. That's not going to happen, Emma." She turned to him then, her eyes assessing him with an unsettling intensity. "Isn't it? What do you think the doctors will do when they find out everything he did to us? Do you think they'll just let us go, knowing people like us exist? People who can survive things that should kill them? The sharp edge of her analysis caught Simmons off guard. We will protect you. You and your father. No, my father is dying, Emma said with a disturbing calm. I've known for months. His organs are failing one by one. The treatments kept him alive, but they're also killing him. Before Simmons could respond, a commotion erupted in the hallway. The door flew open and a woman rushed in, followed by Chen, who was trying to hold her back. Emma! Sara McAllister cried out, stopping short as she saw her daughter. Emma froze, her face an unreadable mask as she stared at the woman who had been little more than a faded memory for 9 years. Mom? The word sounded alien on her lips, like a long, forgotten language. Sara approached slowly, tears streaming down her face. My baby girl, my little girl. When Sara reached to embrace her, Emma visibly tensed. After a moment's hesitation, she allowed the contact, but her body remained rigid, her arms limp at her sides. I'm sorry, Sara whispered, pulling back as she felt her daughter's discomfort. It's just, you're so grown up. You're a woman now. Emma nodded mechanically. It's been 9 years, 2 months, and 16 days. The precision of her answer, the utter lack of emotion in her voice, hung in the air, creating a tense silence. Sara looked to Simmons, her face a canvas of anguish. It's going to take time, the detective said softly. They've been through things we can't even imagine. Sara nodded, trying to compose herself. I can take you to William, Chen offered gently. When they were alone again, Simmons noticed Emma had turned back to the window, her expression distant. Do you want to talk about what happened in there? He asked gently. There's nothing to say, Emma replied. We lived, we survived, we adapted, just like he always said we had to. Simmons stepped closer. Emma, what you did, killing Walker to save yourself and your father. No one is blaming you for that. I didn't kill him to save us, Emma said, her voice cold and clear. I killed him because he finally made a mistake. He got comfortable. He let his guard down. For 9 years, I waited for that opportunity. The bluntness of her confession sent a chill through Simmons. This wasn't the desperate act of a victim escaping. It was the calculated execution of a long-held plan. How long were you planning it? From the first day, Emma answered, finally turning to look him straight in the eye. From the moment I was 11 years old and understood that no one was coming to save us, that I would have to save us myself. In her eyes, Simmons saw something that deeply disturbed him. Not the trauma he expected or even hatred, but a cold, calculating clarity that seemed to look right through him, assessing him as a variable in a complex equation. I need to see my father now, Emma stated, rising with a fluid, precise grace. Simmons nodded, beginning to understand that this young woman was simultaneously a victim and a survivor, an innocent and a weapon. The true scope of what Walker had created was only just beginning to reveal itself. In the following days, the hospital became the center of an unprecedented security operation. The FBI had assumed jurisdiction, establishing a perimeter around the floor where William and Emma were being treated. Only authorized medical staff, immediate family, and designated agents were granted access. William's condition was deteriorating rapidly. The doctors, baffled by the alterations in his physiology, struggled to stabilize him, consulting with specialists across the country. Emma spent every possible moment by his bedside. She would sit in silence for hours, watching the monitors with an understanding that astonished the medical staff. Occasionally, she would ask technical questions about his treatments, using terminology only a professional would know. It's as if she's been to medical school, Dr. Rivera, the lead specialist, remarked to Simmons. She grasps concepts that advanced students take years to master. Walker was educating her in his own way, Simmons replied. According to the documents we found, he considered her his living legacy. He wanted her to continue his work one day. The doctor shook her head. What's worrying isn't just what she knows, but how she thinks. She analyzes everything with absolute detachment, even her own father's condition, and yet she never leaves his side. Protection, explained Chen, who had joined the conversation. For 9 years, they protected each other. It's the only emotional bond she has left intact. That afternoon, while Emma dozed in the chair beside William's bed, Olivia and Sara met with the FBI agents in an improvised conference room. These are the preliminary findings, Special Agent Diana Foster explained, spreading several documents on the table. Walker wasn't just some mad scientist. Before his disappearance, he was working on classified projects for a biotech firm with government contracts. What kind of projects? Olivia asked. Human adaptation for extreme environments, initially funded as research for long-duration space missions and military operations in severe climates. Foster paused. When his methods were deemed too radical and unethical, the funding was cut and he was fired. Apparently, he decided to continue his work independently. Why William and Emma? Sara asked, her voice cracking. Foster consulted her notes. William McAllister had published several papers on human adaptation to extreme altitudes during his geological expeditions. His natural ability to acclimate to adverse conditions caught Walker's attention. As for Emma, she was young, Simmons finished for her. Walker believed younger subjects would have greater genetic plasticity. Sara covered her face with her hands. What we need to decide now, Foster continued, is how to handle this publicly. The press is already circling, though we've contained the more sensitive details. What are our options? Olivia asked. We're considering a partial narrative, kidnapping and long-term captivity, omitting the genetic experimentation. William and Emma could be given new identities, relocated for their protection. Protection for whom exactly? Olivia questioned, her voice laced with suspicion. Foster exchanged a look with her colleagues. From several interested parties. What Walker achieved, however monstrous his methods, represents an unprecedented biotechnological leap. There are entities, both government and private, that would want access to that research and to its living results. Are you suggesting my niece and my brother could become targets? Olivia leaned forward, her voice tight with anger. That someone might want to continue what Walker started? It's a possibility we must consider, Foster admitted. It's why these security measures are in place. In the ICU, Emma woke with a jolt. The monitors connected to William were showing subtle shifts that the medical staff had not yet registered. With precise movements, she pressed the call button. He's going into cardiac failure, she announced to the responding nurse, her voice clinical and dispassionate. You need atropine and a crash cart on standby. The nurse, startled by Emma's certainty, glanced at the monitors. Her eyes widened in alarm as she confirmed the diagnosis and immediately called for the emergency team. In the chaotic minutes that followed, Emma stood in a corner of the room, observing with meticulous attention as the team fought to stabilize William. When they finally succeeded, Dr. Rivera approached her. How did you know what was happening before the monitors clearly indicated it? His respiratory patterns changed, Emma answered. Oxygen saturation dropped 2% in 30 seconds. Heart rate increased slightly, but with arrhythmia. They are precursor signals. Rivera stared at her in awe. That's extraordinarily perceptive. It's survival, Emma replied simply. Observe, analyze, respond. If I hadn't learned to detect subtle changes, we wouldn't be alive. When the doctor left, William's eyes fluttered open. Emma, he whispered. She was at his side in an instant, leaning over him. I'm here, Dad. Not much time, he said, his words an effort. You need to know after I'm gone. Don't talk like that, Emma interrupted, a momentary crack in her impassive facade. Listen, William insisted. Walker saved everything. Backups. Olivia has the keys now. Trust her. Emma nodded slowly. I will. And Emma, William paused, struggling for breath. Find your humanity. It's still in there, underneath everything he did to you. Promise me you'll look for it. Something shifted in Emma's eyes, a flicker of the girl she had once been. I promise, Dad. William closed his eyes, exhausted. Emma remained by his side, her hand resting on his as the monitors kept their steady, weakening rhythm. In the conference room, the discussion continued. What happens to Walker's research? Simmons asked. His notes, equipment, samples? It's all being moved to a secure facility, Foster replied. The FBI and CDC are collaborating on the analysis. What we learn could have significant medical implications. And what if we don't want that research to continue? Olivia interjected. William and Emma weren't willing guinea pigs, they were victims. We understand your concern, Foster assured her. But you have to consider the potential good. The adaptations Walker engineered could help patients with certain medical conditions, improve survival rates in natural disasters, at the cost of what was done to my brother and my niece, Olivia countered firmly. The tension in the room was thick when Chen entered in a hurry. Excuse the interruption. William just had another cardiac event. He's stable, but the doctors say it's a matter of days, maybe hours. Sara let out a quiet sob as Olivia wrapped an arm around her. Simmons stood. We should be with them. Foster nodded. We'll continue this discussion later. For now, family comes first. When they reached the ICU, they found Emma exactly as they had left her, sitting by William's side, monitoring every change in his condition. She offered no visible reaction as they entered, her gaze flicking towards them for only a moment, a simple acknowledgement of their presence. How is he? Sara asked, timidly approaching the other side of the bed. Stable for now, Emma replied, but his renal function is declining. His lungs are maintaining sufficient oxygenation only with assistance. The clinical precision of her assessment was a painful contrast to the raw emotion etched on Sara's face. A chasm of 9 years and irreconcilable experiences separated mother and daughter. Emma, Olivia began softly, the FBI agents want to speak with you when you feel ready. About what comes next. Emma nodded, her eyes never leaving her father. I already know what they want. Protection, new identity, relocation, continuous study and monitoring under the guise of medical care. Her insight startled everyone in the room. They won't force you to do anything you don't want to, Simmons assured her. Emma finally looked up, her eyes meeting the detective's. You don't really believe they'll just let me live, do you? Not after everything Walker did to me? After what I've become? And what do you think you are, Emma? Olivia asked gently. Something between human and something else, she answered with an unsettling calm. Walker called me his directed evolution, the next iteration of humanity, engineered to survive the future he saw coming. You're my daughter, Sara interjected, her voice breaking. That's what you are. Emma looked at her, a flicker of confusion crossing her habitually impassive face. 9 years ago I was. Now? She left the sentence unfinished, turning her attention back to William. Olivia exchanged a look with Simmons. The detective understood the silent message and gently guided Sara out of the room, leaving aunt and niece alone. Once the door closed, Olivia sat beside Emma. Your father gave me something. He said it was important for you to have it. Emma watched as Olivia pulled a small, folded piece of paper from her pocket. They're access keys, Olivia explained. For Walker's remote servers, all of his research backed up and encrypted. Emma took the paper, her eyes scanning the sequence of characters. Did he tell you what to do with it? He said I should use it to protect you, to understand what you would need in the future. Olivia paused, and to make sure no one could ever continue Walker's work. A faint smile, the first Olivia had seen, touched Emma's lips. Dad was always smarter than Walker gave him credit for, even after everything. William wants you to find your way back, Emma. To who I was, to who I might have been. I don't know if that's possible, Emma replied, her voice surprisingly vulnerable. I've lived longer with Walker than I did with you. Everything I know, how I think, how I survive, it comes from him. Not everything, Olivia countered. Your courage, your loyalty to your father, your perseverance, that's all you, Emma. It always has been. For the first time since her rescue, Emma seemed genuinely moved, her mask of indifference cracking for a moment. When this is all over, Olivia continued, when it's time, I will help you find your way, I promise you. Emma slowly let her gaze drift back to William. He doesn't have much time, I know that for a fact. How can you be so sure? Because I went through the same modifications, Emma replied. I know every symptom, every side effect. The difference is, my body was young, adaptable. His was already set. The changes are destroying him from the inside. Olivia felt a chill at the clarity with which Emma analyzed the situation. And you, Emma, what long-term effects will these modifications have on you? I don't know for certain, Emma admitted. Walker projected an extended life expectancy, greater resistance to disease. But there are also risks, accelerated neurological deterioration, possible unforeseen cellular mutations. The coldness with which she discussed her own medical future was disturbing. Olivia took her hand, noting how cold it was to the touch, another effect of the alterations she had endured. You won't face it alone, she promised. This time you'll have family by your side. William McAllister passed away 3 days later in the quiet of the early morning. It was Emma who noticed the exact moment, even before the monitors registered the cessation of cardiac activity. She remained motionless, her hand on her father's, as the alarms began to blare and medical staff rushed into the room. She shed no tears during the resuscitation attempts, nor when they finally declared his death at 4:17 a.m. Her face remained an impenetrable mask as Sara collapsed into Olivia's arms and the staff offered their condolences. Only when everyone had withdrawn, leaving her alone to say goodbye, did Emma finally allow herself a moment of vulnerability. Leaning over her father's body, she whispered something no one else could hear, a private promise between them. Then, with methodical movements, she straightened the sheets and walked out of the room, her composure restored as if it had never wavered. The funeral was held 3 days later under strict security. The official story given to the media was simple. William and Emma McAllister, missing for 9 years, had been held captive by an obsessive criminal. William had succumbed to health complications from his long ordeal. The details of genetic experimentation and physiological alterations remained classified, known only to a small circle of people. Emma watched the casket being lowered with the same distant expression she had worn since the rescue. Dressed entirely in black, she stood slightly apart from the other mourners, as if unconsciously creating a physical barrier between herself and the world. I'll take you home when you're ready, Olivia said softly as the ceremony concluded. Emma looked at her with a disquieting intensity. Home. I don't have a clear concept of what that means anymore. You'll stay with me for a while, Olivia explained. Agent Foster arranged everything. You'll have discreet protection, and we can start planning the next steps. Emma nodded, accepting the information like a simple operational detail. And my mother? The question surprised Olivia with its suddenness. Sara wants to be close, of course. She has an apartment not far from mine, but we all understand that you'll need time to readapt. Readapt, Emma repeated, a shadow of irony touching her voice. An interesting choice of words, considering adaptation has been the very core of my existence for the last 9 years. Olivia's home, a cozy duplex in a quiet Seattle suburb, had been transformed to accommodate her niece. The guest room now held a new bed, a desk, and shelves filled with carefully chosen books. Olivia had tried to create what she imagined a 20-year-old might want, while acknowledging that Emma was no ordinary young woman. "You can decorate it however you like," she offered, showing Emma the room. "Make it your own." Emma scanned the space with an analytical eye, pausing briefly at the books. Shakespeare, Austen, Garcia Marquez. She ran her fingers along the spines. "Literature, not science." "I thought you might want something different from what you've been exposed to all these years," Olivia explained. "But I can get other books if you'd prefer." "No," Emma replied, picking up a copy of 100 Years of Solitude. "This is fine. Walker limited my reading to scientific texts and technical manuals. He said fiction was an unnecessary distraction." That small glimpse into her life in captivity sent a chill down Olivia's spine. "Emma, if you ever want to talk about what happened there, there's nothing to say that will change the facts," Emma interrupted, her voice flat once more. "And the medical and psychological reports already document everything relevant." Olivia nodded, respecting her reticence. "All right, I just want you to know I'm here when you're ready." In the weeks that followed, Emma established a precise routine. She rose at 5:30 a.m. exactly. She performed a series of specific physical exercises, and then she would spend hours on the computer the FBI had provided, supposedly for her studies. Olivia suspected she was accessing Walker's servers, using the keys William had given her, but she chose not to confront her. If Emma was searching for answers, she had the right to find them her own way. FBI agents and medical specialists visited regularly for interviews and evaluations. Emma cooperated mechanically, answering questions with clinical precision, but revealing nothing of substance about her thoughts or emotions. "Your niece presents a fascinating case of extreme psychological adaptation," Dr. Langley, a psychiatrist specializing in trauma, commented after her third session with Emma. "She has developed compartmentalization mechanisms that allowed her to survive her captivity mentally, but they now hinder her reintegration." "Will she get better with time?" Olivia asked, worried. "It's difficult to predict. Typical cases of Stockholm Syndrome or prolonged captivity have known recovery patterns. But what Emma experienced goes beyond that. She wasn't just physically isolated, she was subjected to intense ideological indoctrination while her brain was still developing." "What can we do?" "Patience mainly, stable routines, opportunities to make her own choices, even small ones, and careful observation for any signs of decompensation." What the doctor didn't say, but Olivia understood clearly, was that they considered Emma potentially dangerous. Not just for what she might know about Walker's work, but for the capabilities she had developed under his tutelage. One night, nearly a month after the funeral, Olivia found Emma in the kitchen at 3 a.m., working methodically on her laptop. "Can't sleep?" Olivia asked, making herself some tea. "I sleep exactly as much as is necessary," Emma replied without looking up from the screen. 4 hours and 17 minutes per night. That doesn't seem like enough. It's one of the changes Walker implemented, an alteration of the circadian cycle to maximize conscious time. My body has adapted." Olivia sat down across from her. "What are you doing?" Emma looked at her, evaluating her before answering. analyzing Walker's research data, cross-referencing it with my own biomarkers. May I ask why? I need to understand what he did to me, what I am now. Emma closed the laptop. And I'm also looking for others. Others? Olivia felt a shiver of dread. You think Walker had more subjects? Not directly. But his notes reference collaborators, people who shared his ideas, who might have continued similar lines of research. The implication was disturbing. Have you told the FBI about this? I don't trust them, Emma said frankly. Not them, not Dr. Langley, not the medical specialists. To them, I am simultaneously a victim in need of rehabilitation and a specimen requiring study. Emma. Don't misunderstand me, Aunt Olivia. I understand their position. It's logical from their perspective, but my priority now is to understand my options. Options for what? Emma looked at her directly, her gaze holding an intensity that Olivia found unnerving. For my future. Walker had a purpose for me. Now, I have to decide if I reject it completely or if there are elements I can repurpose. Agent Foster visited the house the next day, bringing news that would once again change the course of their lives. We've confirmed there were others, she announced without preamble once they were seated in the living room. Walker wasn't working entirely alone. Emma, sitting perfectly upright, showed no surprise. Collaborators or competitors? Both, apparently. We've identified a former colleague, a Dr. Marcus Reeves, who seems to have pursued a similar line of research from a clandestine lab in Oregon. He was apprehended yesterday. Did he have subjects? Emma asked, her voice controlled but with an undercurrent of tension. Foster hesitated before answering. Yes, 2 young adults, apparently volunteers, though under questionable circumstances. They're in protective custody now. Emma gave a slight nod, processing the information. Have you verified if there was communication between his research and Walker's? We're working on that, Foster replied, slightly taken aback by the technical question. In fact, we were hoping you could help us with that. Your knowledge of Walker's methods could be invaluable. Are you asking me to collaborate on your investigation? Emma tilted her head slightly. Or is this a strategy to keep me under supervision while you assess my stability? Emma's frankness left Foster momentarily speechless. Olivia intervened quickly. Emma has a right to question the motives, Agent Foster. Transparency will be essential if you expect her cooperation. Foster reconsidered her approach. You're right, Emma. There are multiple objectives here. We want your help with the investigation, yes. Your perspective is unique, but we are also concerned for your safety and well-being. And for what I might do with my knowledge, Emma added. Foster held her gaze. That too, yes. I appreciate the honesty, Emma replied. I will cooperate, under certain conditions. What conditions? I want to meet the other subjects, to speak with them without supervision. Foster frowned. That could be problematic from a security perspective. It's non-negotiable, Emma stated with imperturbable calm. I also want full access to all research findings, both past and future, and I want guarantees that I will not be treated as a subject for further experimentation. The audacity of her demands surprised both women. Foster leaned back, carefully considering her response. I can present your conditions to my superiors, she said finally, but I can't make any promises. I understand, Emma replied. In the meantime, I will continue with my own analysis. When Foster had gone, Olivia turned to her niece. Emma, why is it so important for you to meet these other subjects? Emma looked at her with an expression Olivia couldn't quite decipher. Because I need to know if they are like me, if they experience what I experience. She paused, and because maybe they understand something that no one else can. What it means to be human, and something more. A week later, in a federal research facility on the outskirts of Seattle, Emma waited in a minimalist conference room. The negotiations had been tense, but the FBI had finally agreed to her conditions with a few modifications. The meeting with the other subjects would be on federal grounds with security cameras but no microphones and limited to 1 hour. Olivia, who had insisted on accompanying her, waited in an adjacent room. Emma had been grateful for her presence but preferred to face this encounter alone. The door opened and 2 people walked in, escorted by agents who immediately withdrew. The man appeared to be in his mid-20s, tall and thin with a watchful posture. The woman, perhaps a few years older than Emma, had short hair and an assessing gaze that swept across the room before it settled on her. "I'm Emma McAllister," she said, remaining deliberately seated to minimize any perception of a threat. "Michael Reeves," the man responded, "and this is Taryn Chen." The woman gave a slight nod of acknowledgement but remained silent. "We're not Dr. Reeves's biological relatives," Michael clarified, anticipating the unspoken question. "He adopted that surname for us. A possessive gesture, I suppose." Emma studied them. "How long were you under his care?" "6 years for me," Michael answered. 8 for Taryn. "Voluntarily?" Emma asked, recalling what Foster had mentioned. Michael exchanged a look with Taryn before he spoke. "We were students at the University of Oregon initially. Dr. Reeves recruited us for what he called revolutionary research. Over time, the voluntary nature of our participation became ambiguous. Leaving became impossible once the modifications began," Taryn added, her voice soft but firm. It was the first time she had spoken. "The metabolic changes created a dependency on his treatments." Emma nodded, recognizing the pattern. "Walker used similar methods on us, though in our case there was never any pretense of it being voluntary." A silence fell as the 3 of them took stock of the situation, each one analyzing the others with the sharp acuity their experiences had forged. "What kind of modifications did Reeves make?" Emma finally asked. "Mostly focused on metabolic efficiency and resistance to extreme conditions," Michael replied. "Adaptations for oxygen scarcity, high temperatures, radiation." "A different focus than Walker," Emma observed. "He concentrated on adaptations for extreme cold, prolonged darkness, and altered barometric pressure." "Complementary," Taryn noted, her tone suggesting they were dividing the labor of a grand experiment. The implication hung between them. The doctors had been coordinating their efforts, creating different variants of modified humans for diverse, hostile environments. "What have they told you about your future?" Emma asked. Michael shrugged, a gesture too casual to be genuine. "The usual: protection, a new identity, continuous medical monitoring, the illusion of freedom under constant surveillance." "And you're content with that?" Emma pressed. Taryn offered a faint smile, the first real expression of emotion she had shown. "Are you?" Emma held her gaze. "No." "Then we already have something in common," Taryn replied. Michael leaned forward. "We've read about you. The McAllister case. Father and daughter, vanished during a hiking trip, found 9 years later. The father, recently deceased from complications of captivity." He framed the last words with air quotes. "The public version is heavily sanitized." "As you'd expect," Emma said. "The full truth would raise too many uncomfortable questions." "Why did you request this meeting, Emma?" Taryn asked directly. Emma chose her words with care. "To confirm I wasn't alone in this condition. To understand if your experiences and adaptations align with my own, and to discuss possibilities." "Possibilities?" Michael raised an eyebrow. "For our future," Emma explained. "Walker and Reeves had a purpose for us. The government agencies have another, but the essential question is, what do we want?" The question hung in the air. For the first time, all 3 of them seemed to lower their guards, recognizing a shared fundamental concern. Reeves spoke of preparing for a catastrophic future. Taryn commented, extreme global warming, resource wars, ecosystem collapse. He saw us as prototypes for human survival. Walker had similar visions, Emma agreed, though his were more focused on expansion into uninhabitable environments, polar regions, the deep sea, eventually other planets. Scientific megalomania, Michael dismissed, a rationalization for his sadism. Perhaps, Emma conceded, but that doesn't entirely invalidate the underlying concept. Our bodies have been altered. Those modifications have potential applications, both for us and for others. Are you suggesting we continue their work? Taryn asked, her voice sharpening. No, Emma said firmly. I'm suggesting we define our own path, that we take control of our abilities instead of letting others decide how to use them. The three of them fell silent, each processing the implications of her proposal. The agencies will never let us go completely, Michael pointed out finally. We are simultaneously valuable assets and potential threats. Not without the right assurances, Emma agreed, but our negotiating position is stronger together than it is alone. Taryn studied Emma with renewed interest. You have a plan. It wasn't a question. Emma inclined her head in acknowledgement. I have the beginning of one, and I have resources you don't. Walker's server keys, Michael realized. His complete research, not just the parts the agencies chose to share. And what exactly are you proposing? He asked. Collaboration, Emma stated. An exchange of information, an independent assessment of our conditions and our options. She paused. And eventually a unified proposal for our future. Under what terms? Taryn pressed. Equality, consensus on critical decisions, and a shared commitment to never allow what happened to us to happen to anyone else. They exchanged glances, evaluating the proposal and Emma herself. The room seemed charged with possibility as the faint outline of a new alliance began to form. When Emma returned to the room where Olivia was waiting, her aunt immediately noticed a subtle shift in her posture, an almost imperceptible lightness that hadn't been there before. How did it go? Olivia asked cautiously. Productive, Emma replied. They're like me. Different specific adaptations, but the same fundamental experience. Did it help, talking to them? Emma considered the question. Yes. There are aspects of my condition I could never properly explain to someone who hasn't lived it. As they walked toward the building's exit, Olivia noticed that Emma seemed more present, more connected to her surroundings than at any time since her rescue. What's next? Olivia asked. Emma looked at her, and for the first time, Olivia glimpsed something in her eyes that had been absent for weeks. Purpose. Now, Emma said, I begin to reclaim my future, like I promised Dad I would. In the weeks that followed, Emma established a new rhythm. She continued to cooperate with the federal investigators, providing selected information on Walker's methods while holding certain details in reserve. Simultaneously, through secure channels established with the help of a cybersecurity specialist Olivia had quietly hired, she maintained regular communication with Michael and Taryn. Together, they began to compile a more complete understanding of their conditions, comparing notes on their adaptations and side effects, and discussing strategies to manage the psychological toll of their experiences. One evening, as Olivia was preparing dinner, Emma surprised her by joining her in the kitchen. I'd like to learn how to cook, she announced. Walker considered food preparation an unnecessary inefficiency. We were given precisely calculated nutrients, but never real food. Olivia smiled, moved by this small step toward normalcy. Of course, we can start with something simple. As they chopped vegetables side by side, Emma spoke with an unusual openness. I've been thinking about what Dad asked of me, to find my humanity. "And what have you concluded?" Olivia asked gently. "That humanity isn't a fixed state. It's a continuous process of choice." Emma looked at the knife in her hand, an instrument that could be a tool or a weapon depending on intent. "Walker tried to engineer choice out of my life, to program me for his purposes, but there was always a core that resisted." "Your essence," Olivia nodded. "Your soul, some might say." Emma considered the concept. "I don't know if I have a soul in the traditional sense, but I have a will, and that's enough to start with." As the conversation continued, neither of them mentioned the plans Emma was developing with her new allies. That was a topic for another time when she was ready to share it fully. For now, it was enough to be present in this simple moment. Two women cooking a meal together as evening fell over Seattle, and new paths began to take shape on the horizon. Somewhere between a nightmare past and an uncertain future, Emma McAllister had begun the long journey back to herself. A journey she now faced for the first time since her rescue, not as a lone survivor, but as part of a new and peculiar family forged by both tragedy and hope. The mystery of the drone that had captured something strange in the Cascade Mountains 9 years after she vanished had been solved. But Emma's story was only just beginning to unfold, with chapters that not even she could predict.